Welcome to Jetstock. My name is Ryan. I'll be your pilot today. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, we are talking a little Duane Brown action. He is set to return for his 17th NFL season. Now, this is coming from Rich Cimini by way of his agent, returning after a torn rotator cuff surgery, coming back for another year. I really like that Duane Brown's coming back because the Jets don't have a whole lot of depth on the offensive line front anyway. Like, you got Becton, who hasn't played in 2 years, who you're hoping is going to be able to fill in on the right-hand side. You got last year's late-round pick in Max Mitchell, who has blood clotting issues, who you're hoping those two question marks can compete on the right-hand side. Having Duane Brown return back just makes me feel so much better about the left-hand side and the blind side of our quarterback. And that's not to say our offensive tackle woes are done. That's not the case at all, but I think it creates one less problem. Because I think if Duane Brown were to have retired, it would have been a situation where I'm like, man, I hope we use one at 13 on a tackle, and I hope we get another tackle in there. We needed two at that point. Now, he signed a 2-year, $20 million contract last year after Becton got hurt, and Brown was a beast. He tore his rotator cuff and still wound up playing the entire season with a lot of pain, and a lot of the locker room, the team, they love this guy. The amount of heart that he showed in a season that was otherwise lost, he still decided to continue on and keep playing when he could have hung it up. He had his money in the bank. I think that is a good atmosphere or a good mindset to have in your young locker room. And looking a little forward, the more intriguing part about all this news is we heard from Connor Hughes the other day. The Jets are fully committed to Duane Brown coming back, and they believe that depending on who they get at quarterback, he will be back. So that is the interesting piece of this whole puzzle that really gets the gear spinning. Do the Jets have their quarterback locked in, and does Duane Brown know it? And is that why he's returning, or is he returning because of the money? I did put a poll question in the chat if you guys want to answer that. Duane Brown is returning for the money or for the quarterback and the Super Bowl ring. Now, he does have $9 million in base salary coming to him. The Jets could have saved $4.7 million if they were to have moved on from Duane Brown. So that didn't make a whole lot of sense. You're not going to get another tackle in here for $5 million. It just made all the sense in the world to bring him back for another season. Now, something I do want to take a look at is just what is his valuation worth? This is from Over the Cap. Now, that red line is the salary that we are paying him on an annual average salary, so $10 million each of these 2 years. And the blue dots are where he ranked in relation to his peers. So we got a lot of value out of Duane Brown in relation to how Over the Cap grades their contracts on a per snap basis. And I believe this uses some sort of Pro Football Focus type analytics, in conjunction with it to give you this type of graph. But it makes me feel good that we're getting value out of players. Anytime you see those dots above the line right there, it makes you feel like you're getting value out, right? I'm a fan of this move. Now, obviously, I think a lot of us are probably feeling it's Aaron Rodgers, in which case it makes me feel like Bakhtiari may not be someone that comes with him. Now, the Packers don't save a whole lot of cap. Almost the same reasoning that we would have for not cutting Duane Brown, the Packers would have for not cutting Bakhtiari, especially if you're going to try and start someone like Jordan Love on the backside. Do you think that it's more likely he returns to Green Bay, Duane Brown comes here, and then we draft a tackle? That's probably more realistic, I think, in my opinion, just because there's going to be a lot of money that would have to be devoted to Bakhtiari. That doesn't make me feel real good, and I don't love the idea of maybe relying a little more on a rookie. Who knows? In my opinion, I would like to see Duane Brown as the starter, and then groom someone behind him, which almost leads me to wonder if they're not going to possibly use 13 on a tackle. We met with Brian Branch, and I think we met with Antonio Johnson, the two safeties that are projected to go earlier in this draft. I could see a situation where the Jets wind up pulling the trigger on one of those guys earlier, or maybe in a trade down pull trigger on one of them, and then pick up one of these tackles that are in the late first, early second sort of realm that may have equally, the upside that you've seen from before. The nice thing is I don't feel like you're pressured to make the decision, right? If you have Brown coming back, you're not forced to take a tackle at 13. You can if there's one that you like. Like maybe we really like Parrish Johnson and we don't like Skronsky and we don't like, Broderick Jones for some reason. Well, now we can sit back and take the best available player because we have Brown at least. It's not forcing you to reach for a need, even though we all agree offensive line is still going to be a need, even with Brown here. He's 38 years old. It's going to be a problem coming up here. Let's see. What are you guys talking about? Kai Young Joe says Duane Brown might know something. Yeah, I agree. I think there's something in the works. I think they know a veteran quarterback's coming in, and now all these free agent and restructures are going to start happening. I think you'll see that next with C.J. Mosley and maybe John Franklin Myers. Silas Jones says money doesn't seem like the reason he wants to come back. Could have packed it in last year after his shoulder injury last year. Yes, Silas, I completely agree. He could have packed it in, collected his money, not risked his body further, but he probably felt there was a shot the Jets were getting into the playoffs and I want to help this team get there. I like that mentality. I like Duane Brown. I think if for no other reason, he's a great presence in the locker room. And he was, stout too, as far as, tackles go. So if you have a stronger quarterback too, I think our offensive line is going to look even better. Kaiser thinks that Rodgers is coming. Thinks it's definitely a possibility. Daniel Murphy says Brown is returning because he loves football. I think it's possible. Ed says, any chance Herbig can move to center? Maybe. I think he played. Did he play a little center? I think he was our backup center, wasn't he? I think he played center in Philly for a little bit as like in reserve capacity. He's a free agent, so if you can retain him, I would like to. I don't think he's going to cost that much to bring back, and he provides some type of depth for Lake and Tomlinson if you had to move on that side of it. Al Tuna Sandwich. What's up, dude? He says, I know we can't rely on this, but I've got a feeling Becton gets his act together and will play a major role on the offensive line this season. Yeah, I agree. I think when I made my mock off seasons, I sort of led it with, or I didn't lead it, but I brought up at some point in it that I think the Jets are going to rely more than people might feel comfortable on Mekhi Becton. I said Denzel Mims, and I was projecting maybe Ashton Davis as like one of our safeties, but I think there's enough options at safety that we don't have to rely on him. And I do think because of the Corey Davis and Braxton Berrios contracts, we could rely on a different wide receiver other than Mims if we wanted to. But Mekhi Becton provides so much upside for where he could have been that I think it's worth it for us to at least pencil him in as the starter at right tackle with Max Mitchell in reserve. And then, look, if Becton goes down, you wind up starting Mitchell anyway. I don't think it's worth upsetting the apple cart necessarily. I do think you can bring in a tackle to groom behind Brown and eventually take over for Brown, or potentially be able to slide him over to the other side in the event, he's better than Mitchell or Becton gets hurt or something. And then you also have AVT in the reserves as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of offensive line versatility, but Becton being a main staple of that, I think is important for the success long-term. And I think while you want to create competition within the room, I don't think you want to necessarily say draft a specific right tackle that clearly looks like the heir apparent. I don't know. I think Becton's going to be a main part of this offensive line. I'm concerned a little bit, but I think Joe Douglas is going to provide us enough depth to not have to overly rely on it. So I agree. I'm right there with you. O'Leary's in here. What's up, dude? He says, I'd still draft an O-tackle at 13, to be honest. Yeah, I would like tackle, but I think I'm more open to a few other options. I think safety is the one spot at that point. I like the idea of a trade down, because if you trade for Rodgers and you're giving up like a second-round pick for him, I like the idea of moving back and maybe picking up that second again. I don't particularly feel the need that I have to make the pick at 13, but I don't know if there's anyone worth jumping up to 13 where we would have a trade down. So like any of the three tackles I think is fine. I would, I'd be tickled pink. We need offensive line help regardless. But I think it provides you the situation where if there's a player that you covet, you might be able to kind of lean that direction. Dyke Tyson says, also, if Ravens are dumb enough to put the non-exclusive tag on Lamar Jackson on Tuesday, then Jets definitely got to consider him if we haven't locked down Rodgers. I don't know why they wouldn't. Why would you put the non-exclusive tag on him? Like, what's the benefit if you're the Ravens for doing that. Like, why can't you, if I'm the Ravens, I would put the exclusive tag on him and allow him to negotiate with everyone the same way the non-exclusive tag does, only you get the benefit of not losing only 2 firsts in the event you don't match the contract. You can have him find his contract and then still trade him for whatever the compensation you deem more valuable. I don't think it makes any sense for the Ravens. Like, why would the Ravens want to give him up for 2 first-round picks? Obviously they want to know what his contract's worth, but I don't see why they couldn't do that while also having the exclusive tag on him. I don't think the exclusive tag prevents the Ravens from allowing him to talk to teams. I think it just means, they have to allow him to talk to teams. And I think that's what I would do. Val Outlaw said, would you give Mekhi Becton that 5th-year option? I would not. I don't think I would. I don't think you can guarantee him $13 million after missing 2 of the first 3 years of his career. That feels like a tough stretch. It's only $13 million. So like part of me feels like, just give him the contract. I would actually not mind a contract that pays Mekhi a little bit more this year and then maybe lessens his cap hit for maybe 2 more years. Like, I would like to extend him beyond what his 5th-year option is just to like see what he could be. But I don't want to have to pay him a fully guaranteed salary. So if he's willing to work it out a little bit that way, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just like the idea of having, put it this way, I would not exercise the option because I like having players prove with their back against the wall. Like, I'd rather overpay for production than pay for hopeful production out of someone who hasn't been able to stay healthy. Billy says, my prediction, Rodgers comes and Lazard right after. I get the feeling Lazard may not be following. I think he wants to sign a contract. He's a little bit older. He's like 27, hasn't signed a deal yet, like a big deal. And this might be his only opportunity to do so. And I don't think the Jets should be the team that hands him that contract. I would like to go after a veteran wide receiver, whether that be someone like, honestly, Odell Beckham Jr. fascinates me. He's going to be a free agent. He almost went to Green Bay, last year, or there were rumors of him going to Green Bay for like the last 2 years to play with Aaron Rodgers. If he comes to New York, while he is a head case, I mean, we already got a head case in Rodgers, possibly. Like, screw it. Let's just go balls to the wall. I also like Courtland Sutton. Like, trading for Courtland Sutton sounds really attractive. He's younger. I don't see him as the head case, but the injuries are a concern. Like, Odell, the injuries are a concern too, because he's always got hamstring injuries. Hopkins is going to cost you probably more financially, as well as draft capital wise. And then outside of that, I don't know, like Michael Thomas might be a free agent. Maybe you go that route. I don't know how much Joe Douglas wants to wheel and deal picks. But Lazard coming right after, it's a possibility. You never know. Let's see. Kelvin Joseph says, trade, first round swap and conditional second, possible first. Aaron Rodgers to New York, baby. Yeah, I could see the Packers wanting to jump the Patriots, because right now it goes Jets, Patriots, Packers. Because I think the Jets obviously could take a tackle. I think the Patriots could take a tackle. And if the Packers are going forward with Jordan Love, they may want to draft the heir apparent to Bakhtiari behind him. Possible. I don't think we're going to have to give up 13, though. I think we can give up a second-round pick, because unless the Raiders or Titans are willing to give up a second-round pick for Rodgers and Rodgers is willing to play there, it may not matter. We may be the top bid in the second round. Muttvile says, Brian Branch, I can see us drafting at 13. So can I. Branch or Antonio Johnson. Those are the 2 guys. I was reading something the other day that they were thinking that Brian Branch might be like a nickel. That seems odd to me. He seems like one of the more well-rounded safeties in the class. Antonio Johnson's exciting. I'm happy with the safety. I wouldn't mind that. I think we're in a spot where you can definitely go tackle or you can go best player available. And I would prefer go towards a strength, and I feel like that might be safety in this class. What else are you guys talking about in here? Danny Murphy says, Torrance doesn't really fit our scheme. He's more of a power gap style than zone blocking. So the nice thing about Osiris Torrance, the tackle guard from Florida, is that he's at least, I don't think he's had any penalties. I have to go back and look. I don't remember the exact metrics exact stats that I looked up, but he blocks for Anthony Richardson, which is a very tough task. Like, offensive linemen having to block for a guy that runs around that much behind the line of scrimmage is not easy to not have penalties, matriculating down the field. So I think there's some value in there for him. I don't know as far as what he can or can't do schematically. So that's interesting. But he is a good offensive lineman. They're talking about him being like the second or third best offensive lineman, not just like, not just the top 3 tackles, or at least I've seen a few sites with him on that. Lewis B says, I generally feel like this confirms that Fant is gone and the Jets struck a deal with a quarterback. Yeah, there's no part of me that felt like Fant was coming back. Like, I would be very, very surprised. I feel like he could get some kind of money, or someone would pay him a little bit more than we would here. If he's willing to come back on a cheaper contract and we don't have to necessarily stretch for a tackle, I guess you could do that. I like the idea of getting a younger tackle to groom behind Brown, though, to take over for next year. Dyke Tyson says, how about Hopkins? We could probably be grabbed for a second rounder. I think we're going to trade our second rounder for Rodgers. If you trade down in the first and you pick up more, maybe you make the deal. It sounds like Hopkins may get moved in the next week or so. I saw something, him and maybe OBJ might happen before free agency kicks off, or right at the beginning. My file says, hell no to Michael Thomas. Yeah, I think there's enough options out there. Christopher Hackett says exclusive tag can only negotiate with the Ravens. Non-exclusives means he can. Yeah, but that's so. I get what the exclusive tag means. He can only negotiate with the Ravens, but I think the Ravens could allow him to talk to any other team. Like, how is that any different than like Tyreek Hill seeking a trade, or Derek Carr seeking a trade, or Deshaun Watson seeking a trade? Like, I'm pretty sure that's not fully accurate. I think the Ravens could allow him to negotiate if they wanted to. Mojo Jets says, on your poll, there should have been another option. He just loves football. I think he was coming back even if Zach was the starter. That's possible. Yeah, he had $9 million like as a reason to come back. But I feel like that would be more so the money. I don't know. Maybe he does love football and he doesn't care who the quarterback is. Just based on Connor Hughes' tweet the other day, or comment saying that he's coming back based on who the quarterback is, leads me to believe that may be wrong. Silas Jones says, Branch played a lot of nickel for Alabama and profiles more as a nickel in the NFL. Okay, so there you go. So maybe he's more of a nickel. So maybe Antonio Johnson is the guy we're looking for. Lawrence says, Ryan, could we drop down from 13, gain another 2 picks, and gather up 2 big offensive linemen like 06? I would like to trade down from 13 to like the low to mid 20s and pick up another second round pick. If you could do that, because I think we're going to trade the 2, like our 43 pick for Rodgers. And if that's the case, then you get, you recoup the second. So maybe you still get the center in John Michael Schmitz. Honestly, I like 4 or 5 of the centers that are coming out in this year. And I don't necessarily feel the need that you have to take one in the second. Like, value may be had in the 3rd and 4th round with some of these center prospects. But yeah, I like double dipping on O-line for sure. Maria says, safety in the 1st round. No need when this draft has a ton of safeties. Deep draft for safety position. Yeah, no, that's true. I think there's plenty of safety help. But when you look at the top of the draft, if you can't trade down, maybe defensive tackle. That would be interesting. I wonder what would happen. Like, is there any situation where Jalen Carter falls enough, or does he fall even further? Maybe he falls a lot further. I don't know. D tackle is going to be a sneaky need for us, even though it's not a sexy pick. Sertoon says, in here late, why am I hearing Rodgers is coming to the Jets? News confirmed. I think it's definitely going to happen. I think Duane Brown is coming here because he knows Rodgers is going to come here. I think they have it on lock. Let's see. What else are you guys talking about? Richard Leslie says, seriously, we should be able to get Rodgers without including draft picks. Packers need to move him or convince him to retire. We offer to take him off their payroll. Let's play hardball. I like that mentality. So put it this way. I think we should be very careful with that, because I think the Packers, if they're going to get stuck with him, they would open it up to the NFC side of things. So we don't want to be so spiteful that they say, okay, screw it, we'll let him go to the NFC because we're not taking the lowball fucking offer from the Jets. That's some little level of concern. Although I guess Rodgers would also have to want to go there. So I don't know what team that would ultimately be. Joe S says, AFC division favorites with Rodgers. Let's effing go. Yeah, I completely agree. I think as soon as this happens, if it does, I think right now the Jets are like the 6th or 7th best odds on a lot of betting sites to win the Super Bowl this year. And that's before they get the quarterback. So if they get him, might be pretty neat. Oh, sorry, Christopher, I didn't read his whole comment. He said, you didn't read my whole comment. I said, if the Ravens force Lamar to get a new contract from a different team, you're at risk of making him mad and going with that team. Well, no, you go with, I think Lamar is probably not going to stay on the Ravens. I would be surprised. I think he is going to get traded, and I think it's just a matter of, are you going to allow him to walk for 2 first-round picks, or are you going to dictate your terms and allow him to negotiate with every other team? It could be the team he wants to go to. It doesn't matter. But like the minimum you're getting is 2 first-round picks if you're going to trade him, I would think. Unless they sign him to such an incredibly massive offer. Well, it wouldn't even matter because like the Ravens would have to allow him to sign that offer. I don't know. I think the Ravens would be silly to use the non-exclusive tag on him. Muttvile says, hey, Ryan, remember when you thought I was crazy with us trading away Jamal, then re-sign, trade back him later? Well, there's a good chance Jamal gets cut and Joe Douglas can get him for what he wants. Go Jets. If the Jets get Jamal Adams after trading him, it'll be the greatest trade of all time. I would not do that. I don't particularly want to deal with the headache, but that would be fascinating. Talk about full circle. I feel like there was enough sort of bad blood that I don't know if I'd do that. Silas says Antonio Johnson is a freak and worth it at pick 13. How good we have to hit on our last draft. We can afford to take Johnson. Yeah, I don't think taking a safety at 13 is the same as when we took safety at 6 or 34 or whatever it was with Marcus May. Oreo says, Dolphins don't look too committed to Tua. Hypothetically, if the Jets don't get anyone at quarterback and we miss on Lamar, how do you feel about trading for Tua? They'll never trade Tua within the division, and I don't want to give up picks to get Tua when I think he should just retire. I do. I think for his own safety and his own health, it would be in his best interest to do so. I don't think he's going to do that. And I do think the Dolphins are going to... I don't think they're going to exercise his 5th-year option. I think they're going to hold on to him. I still feel like they should be in the Rodgers conversation. Yeah. Noah Grossberg says, what is your prediction timeline for Rodgers being moved? Do you think we will get cold feet and panic, sign Derek Carr if it takes too long? No, I think we find out from Rodgers in the next week. I think we find out by Friday of next week. So that way we have the weekend. We'll have we'll find out probably Friday. And then everyone's going to be like, oh, man, it's going to be all the news for the weekend. And then they'll be talking about it all the following week for free agency. And that'll be the way he does it. Be a whole spectacle. Harry W. says, hi, guys. Now that Duane Brown is returning with Becton and Mitchell, do we draft tackle at 13? I would still like to. I like the idea of still adding depth. Duane Brown is not the future at tackle for us, and so we're still going to need someone. But at the same time, Joe Douglas was on staff in Philadelphia when they drafted a tackle in the 6th or 7th round who is now their starting left tackle. So Joe Douglas can do this and he can hit on guys outside of the 1st round. That's why I'm leaning a little bit more safety in the 1st round. Get that elite prospect. And then if you think you can hit on other guys at other points in the draft, you don't have to necessarily use every 1st round pick on offensive linemen. There could be value in having, other pieces there, because eventually you're going to have to re-sign them, which I guess is a good problem. You want to have the problem of having too many good offensive linemen that you can't keep them. Let's see. It's Snoopy. Deal likely in place. How would DJ have an idea of the picks required? Salah missed combine. Rodgers in New York. Brown returning. Too much smoke. Well, Rodgers being in New York, I did see that. That was kind of exciting. I was like, oh man, what's going to happen? His girlfriend does live in New York, so I think, or has an apartment, I guess, in New York. So I can see him wanting to come here. One of the things when you're trying to lure a free agent into your like your city is you're trying to wow the wife or whatever, so that way you wine and dine them. If you get them to like the atmosphere in the city, you're more likely to get hubby to follow. So I could see that. I could see Rodgers want to come here for that. Skype Gaming says, if Rodgers is coming to the Jets, what if we try to trade for Davante Adams? We would be an instant Super Bowl favorite, although it would cost a first rounder to grab Adams. Yeah, you're probably looking at trading 13 to the Raiders to get Adams, and that might be enough because the Raiders may be looking to give up, that pick 13 and 7 to go up and get their quarterback if that's what they're looking to maybe do. I would do it. It just seems like a very bad trade for the Raiders based on how that all played out. I would do it. I don't think the Raiders would do it. But if they want their quarterback, maybe it's something they're considering. Lewis B says, no way Carr would want the Saints. Now knowing the cap hell and the Kamara stuff, that leaves the Jets, and Rodgers only has the Jets that is interested. It just seems like Joe Douglas has 2 deals ready to go. Yeah, I think he probably does, and I think he's gonna pay what he wants to pay. Like, that's the one thing that I believe in Joe Douglas. Like, we're not overpaying for anyone. As much as I was thinking like a first wouldn't be crazy, or even 2 firsts if you were to include like the tackle in some capacity, because there was multiple teams and everyone's bidding on him. But if the Jets are the only team bidding on him, Joe Douglas is not going to overpay. It's not going to happen. We're going to get a much better deal than I think a lot of people were probably expecting. Mojo Jet says, we should have the answer on Rodgers by Tuesday. How much time does he need? If it takes you that long to decide if you should retire, then mentally you've already hung it up. Yeah, I think we should I'm hoping we find out within the next few days, because then it gives us like a week to put all our ducks in a row, because I would like us to restructure CJ Mosley. I would like us to bring back some of our own players, but I don't think the Jets should do that until they figure out what's going on with Rodgers, because I think you're going to get the other guys back at a little bit more of a discount than you would otherwise get them back at. So for that sake of things, it would make more sense for us to get Rodgers done sooner. Same thing with Rodgers wanting to attract players and make moves as well. So I think it does get done pretty soon. Jace B says, if Packers decide to keep Rodgers, do you see the Jets potentially looking at Jordan Love as a potential option? I don't think they're going to keep Rodgers. Like, even if they were to, I think they would try to force him to retire at that point. It would be a very weird situation. It would be like, hey, we're not going to bring back Bakhtiari. We're not bringing back Cobb. Like, all the guys you want to play with. And Rodgers already said he doesn't want to, go through a rebuild. So I don't think he's going back to Green Bay. Let's see. Titty Twist. Good name. He says, Brady lives in New York City along with 10 million other people. Yeah, it's true. But he doesn't date Aaron Rodgers. Rich Vitale, the 2 reasons you sign O-line in the first round is the 5th-year option, and there just isn't that many great ones. Yeah, the 5th-year option is always valuable, and good offensive linemen don't tend to hit free agency in the NFL. So you do have to draft or develop your own guys. The only reason I'm saying maybe outside of the first round is because Joe Douglas has done it with other teams, and I'd like to see him do it here. You shouldn't have to use first-round picks to fill out your roster at a position group that like you are kind of known for. For me, I think Joe Douglas got to earn his salt outside of that. Dyke Tyson says, I read Jimmy Ward in San Fran wants to return to safety position. Yes, that's who I would like to bring in at safety. I would like Jimmy Ward or Adrian Amos. Jimmy Ward obviously knows Salah's system. Adrian Amos was scouted and drafted by Joe Douglas while he was, I believe it was the director of player personnel in Chicago. And both of them are going to be free agents and or cut. So they will be options for the New York Jets. Jace B, who is your quarterback 1 in the draft this year? If I think the safest of the quarterbacks is CJ Stroud, but I think the quarterback that's going to go number 1 is going to be Anthony Richardson. I think Seattle should trade up to 1 to get him. I think the Texans go Bryce Young at 2. I think the Colts get CJ Stroud at 4, and I think the Raiders get Levis at 7. And I think McDaniels wants to develop him, and I think that sort of fits everywhere. And Anthony Richardson would be able to sit behind Geno Smith for like 2 or 3 years. That's kind of where I see them, where I think they should go. I don't know if that's where they actually will go. Or Oriel, let's talk about something more important. What is Ryan going to do when he hits 30,000? I've been here since you had 7,000 subs. You got to give away Jets tickets next year. We know you got it like that. No, I wish. I go back to work on. When am I going back to work? I'm supposed to go back to work on the 10th. Golf season is starting, so back to work. But at 30,000 subs, I don't know. Maybe we'll do something cool. That'll be a cool milestone. I'm not even at 25,000 subs. I just want to hit 25. But thank you, Oreo. You've been hanging around for a long time. I was going through that. I was trying to see like which people I recognized from like 5 years ago. And there's still a lot of you guys. Makes me feel good. It's Snoopy says, it's not Carr because they announced today 2 more teams are meeting with him. If Brown knows who the quarterback, who could it be? Rodgers. Ooh, I didn't realize that Carr was meeting with 2 more teams. You'll have to let me know who those are. Jimmy from Seattle says, you sign Carr and get Rodgers, draft Stetson Bennett or Henson Hooker in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th rounds. Yeah, my opinion on Hooker sort of changed a little bit just because it sounds like he'll be ready for the start of the season. I was thinking he wasn't going to be ready till middle of the season. I still don't think you take someone in the top 3 rounds at quarterback. I think you owe it to the franchise to sort of like see where Zach is for this year. But I think next year you definitely draft someone if you're not comfortable with Zach, and then you just don't pick up his 5th-year option. If Stetson Bennett's there a little bit later, like if he's someone that could squeak by, because him and Henson Hooker are both a little bit older. If they fall a little bit, I wouldn't mind it. I just don't know if that's the direction they go, because now you have like a 25, 26-year-old quarterback that you're having sit behind Rodgers for 2 years. It's a little bit of time. Let's see. David Hall Jr. says, if Quentin Nelson was a free agent, that would be a sensationally sad. Sadly, he is not. Yeah, no, that wouldn't be a thing. He's too good. Skite Gaming says, could we see Juju coming to the Jets? I don't think so. Remember the past, he almost signed with us a couple years ago. I think he was almost going to sign with us because we had Sam Darnold, his former college quarterback. I don't think he's realistically an option for us here. I don't particularly, I don't love Juju. Not a huge fan of him. Mudvile says, I've been here since the rebuilding the Jets in 7 moves video. I should do another one of those. I haven't done, I don't know. I used to like do that sort of stuff, and now it's like, all right, well, I don't know if it's necessarily rebuilding the Jets at this point. It's like retooling the Jets. Mitt Flair says, I've been here at least 4 years. Appreciate that. You guys are both been here a long time. Silas Jones. Random question, Ryan. What is your favorite color? I picked the Jets because my favorite color was green when I was 5. LOL. Been through misery since. I guess green's one of my favorite colors. It's green. I don't know. I like all the colors. I feel like my like power color is like a purple. Believe it or not. Like I have this like purple polo that I wear to work sometimes. Just feels good. But green, I wear green like every day. My office is green. I'm sitting here in the dark. I got green everywhere. I love green. It's hard not to like green when you're a Jet fan, right? Plus, I'm Irish too, so like green always kind of like sort of stood out to me. Let's see. Adrian Gutierrez says Duane Brown is old and just looking for a paycheck. Draft a tackle and guard. I would like to draft a tackle and like a center that could play guard. That would make me feel a little bit better. Daniel Murphy just noticed that DeJuan Jones has a 7'4" wingspan. Yeah, he's a monster. He's every bit as big as they like had him measured at the Senior Bowl. He may have grown 2 inches too. Guy's nuts. Way too big. Mitt Flair, where did you get that hoodie? Jet Shop. Wish I had a promo code. I've had so many people ask that. It's a great hoodie. It's really comfortable. It's like stretchy too. It's got like a nice little elasticy. It's like a, I don't know. It's not a hoodie material, if that makes sense. Like a more of a stretch synthetic thing. Oh God, what else are you guys talking to? Mojo Jets says, where'd it go? Sorry. Jets family, can you imagine the size of the parade when we finally win? Flights from all over the day after the Super Bowl. No Jets fan alive will dare miss it. Yeah, no, if the Jets wind up winning a Super Bowl, It's going to be the most rowdy shit show I've ever seen. Sorless. I saw, hold on, let me find Sorless. Sorless had a comment in there. Sorry, dude. There it is. Sorless says, thank you for celebrating 25 months of membership, dude. Ooh, you're going to have, actually all the members that are part of the channel are about to have something really, really cool happen on Tuesday. I'm excited to see what happens. I think you guys will like it, though. Trade back from 13 and draft the center from Minnesota. Yeah, if you're giving up the second for like Rodgers and you can trade down from 13 to like middle, late first and draft the center there and get him for the 5-year contract, that's actually where I would prefer to utilize a pick as opposed to maybe, waiting a little bit and losing a year. I like that extra year of contractual flexibility that it gives you. Let's see. David Hall Jr. I really hope Derek Carr isn't doing what Kirk Cousins did to us a couple seasons ago. I don't get that vibe from him. He wants a forever home. He thought he had one in Vegas until he got evicted. So I think Carr and the Jets are using each other. I think it's fine in that capacity. I don't mind. It's a business. But I do think it's worth it for Carr to sit out until the Jets do get Rodgers, because I think we could be the top bidder for him if we miss out on Rodgers. I think we'll pivot. And so for his sake, it makes sense for the two of us to talk. Sean Fairley says, I picked the Jets as they have the same favorite colors, or has the same colors as my favorite soccer team, the famous Glasgow Celtic. See, Fingerlight gets it. Dry fit material. Sorry. You look it up. Jet shot. Let's see. Adrian Gutierrez, do you feel Becton can make an impact on the Jets team? Yeah, I do. I think they want him to be the long-term tackle for this team. I think they believe he has that capacity. It's just they're not going to exercise his 5th-year option because it'd be silly to do so given the injuries he's had. Let him prove that he can be it before you dish out all the money. AZ Jet says, Ryan, who are your top 3 players Aaron will attract to sign with the New York Jets? Top 3 potential players. I don't think Bakhtiari comes now that Brown has come back. I know he's wanted him to come with him. I would say, not that it's a top option, but I think Cobb is likely to come with him. I think it's possible you see Lazard, but I think it's more so maybe outward free agents that are more attractive. Like if Rodgers gets here, I could see a situation where maybe Corey Linsley, if he's cut as a center for the Chargers, maybe he comes, plays with Rodgers again. He was his former center in Green Bay. The other option is like, what receivers could you attract by having Rodgers here? Because I do think Odell could follow Rodgers wherever he ends up going. I think you could also make a move for Cortland Sutton because we have his former wide receivers coach. I would like to see how I'm curious to see how they play with the money from Braxton Berrios and Corey Davis. Part of me wants to see Corey Davis like restructure his deal, give it like a 2-year contract, but drop his cap hit in like half. I think he's supposed to get paid like $12 million against the cap, but it would be like a $10.5 million savings if you cut him. Explosive Diarrhea says Joe True plus. I doubt Ryan would want to be a backup or Carr or Ryan. Oh, he's talking about Matt Ryan. BG says, did anyone actually think Duane would choose to hang it up? He's owed at least $6 million this season, and that's if the Jets choose to cut him. If he plays, he'll earn more. There is no possible way he was walking away from that. Yeah, no, this was a move that the Jets were forced to make because they lost their tackle at a very inopportune time last year, and I think it just made a lot of sense for him to come back. But at the same time, he was guaranteed that money anyway, and he could have just retired and got it. So it's not like he had to come back. He's gaining an extra $3 million by playing 17 games. That's kind of how I look at it, because I think his base salary is $9 million. Sorla says, I live in Buffalo and chose the Jets because I wanted to be different, and green is by far the best color. It is. It's not great if you want to have a green screen, though. I was looking at that. I actually I got a new purchase that I have not figured out how to implement yet, but I have a blue screen, which will actually work in some capacity. I don't think I'll use it as like my backdrop, though. I like my backdrop. But I have it for other stuff. Get the mind spinning. What else are we talking about in here? David Hall Jr. says, it would be cool to have Dexter Lawrence, but the Giants are not giving him up. No, yeah, I would think they're going to re-sign him. Snoopy says, might as well keep Corey Davis. Rodgers could have 2 first-round wide receivers for the first time in his career. My biggest issue with Corey Davis is just that he's not always available. Like, he doesn't last as long. I would almost rather a lesser wide receiver that's always on the field. That's my biggest hang up with him, because I like Corey Davis. I think his potential is really good, and I feel like our quarterbacks felt like he was always someone they could rely on to throw the ball towards. You saw him get some action in the Steeler game and the Brown game with both those wins. So I like him. I wouldn't mind seeing him be retained, but I understand if the quarterback coming in wants to bring in their own guy as well. Daily Duke says, do you guys, the Jets, trade for Rodgers or sign Carr this week? I think we trade for Rodgers this upcoming week. I think that's what happens. I think we could see it happen very, very quickly after the combine. Finger Lake says, you can replace 40 catches for 500 yards with anyone. Davis is expendable. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird, right? Like you could replace that much, but how much is Corey Davis worth with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback? That's the difference, because I don't think Corey Davis is 500 yards with Aaron Rodgers. I think it could be closer to like 800-900 yards. Like it could be a good season for sure. It's so hard to make that determination, though. Like, is he going to be on the field to catch the amount of balls needed to make that cap hit worth it? I don't know if he's going to. When Garrett Bradbury was coming out of NC State, I thought he was a phenomenal day 2 selection for us. Sadly, Minnesota drafted him. Yeah, we've been looking for a center for the longest time, and it feels like every time the like top center is available, everyone's always like waiting for it or wanting to have us take him. Party with Peg and Artie says, anyone else losing their mind waiting for the breaking quarterback post? Yes. Yes, we are all losing our mind. We're going a little crazy here. Jimmy from Seattle, why do y'all want Bakhtiari so bad? Dude couldn't stay on the field. It's more so because Rodgers wants him, I think, more than anything else. I don't know if any of us are necessarily 100% gung-ho Bakhtiari one way or the other. I'd be fine with him. I think if he's healthy, he's one of the best tackles in the league. AZ Jet says, do you think we steal back Marshall from the Steelers? Miss that guy. I doubt Giants put Pinnock back on practice squad as well. Hit that like button. Fam bam. Thanks, dude. William Sprague. Thanks so much for the super chat. He says, hi, Ryan. We could take Duane Jones, the animal. Yeah, 6'8", 6'7" or whatever, 8-foot wingspan, 7.5-foot wingspan, whatever it is. Crazy. Monster tackle. I would almost want to see, imagine the Jets get like Duane Brown and Darnell Washington, and you get like 6'7", 6'8" on either side with Mekhi Becton. Holy hell, talk about a monster offensive line. All right. Well, that's going to do it for me. The 43 minutes here. Talk about Duane Brown. Is a new quarterback inbound? I think it's probably likely. Duane Brown could have retired, collected the $6 million. He's going to make an extra 3 just by playing an extra 17 games and putting his body through all this stress. I like it. I like Duane Brown. I think he's great for our locker room. I think he's rock solid at left tackle. It lessens the need to stretch for a tackle at 13, and I think it opens you up to the ability or options of either trading that pick or going a different route with it. So, guys, let me know your thoughts on Duane Brown down below in the comments. How do you feel about him returning? Do you think it definitely means we're getting a quarterback, or do you think that there's a money side of things, that he's just, 38 years old, 39 years old, just wants to collect that final paycheck? I don't know. Let me know in the comments section down below. And as always, go Jets.